about to head into the Houston Horror Film Fest, and I'm excited to see what's going to be in there. I'm a little early for the first screening to start at 11 a.m. Not sure what to expect. I think there might be a lot of people here. I mean, the parking lot is already full, but it's starting to rain, so I'm going to go ahead and get inside. Here's our pamphlet for today's festivities, complete with stuck together pages and a listing of today's screenings. I think we're going to head to screening room 2 and check out what's going on over there today. Where's screening room 2?
That would be up there.
Okay. All right, horror fans. I've sat through 2 screenings, a movie called Inheritance and another movie called Bloomfield. I thought I could power through for all 3 features that they had lined up in screening room 2 today, but I just got too hungry. I think I've got an interview lined up with Brianna Young, the creator of Bloomfield. We'll look forward to that tomorrow. And man, if I don't get back in there, I won't get anything else. So I gotta hurry up and eat, and I'll see you back in a minute. All right, so what do we write about? We have horror and speculative fiction, I see that.
Well, it's like romantic comedies. It's like a Hallmark movie. No, it's the opposite of a Hallmark movie. So if you don't like horror, you don't want my books. She writes more Amish romance, so you'll find the light stuff over there. But I do a lot of the creature horror, folk, the Wendigo, the Banshee, the Slua, some demon, soft sci-fi, witches, that stuff over there. Yeah, so that's me. This is the stuff to stay away from if you don't like the hard stuff. So, like I said, Amish romance is over in that corner, so.
Yeah,
Little House on the Prairie. That's
look, I love Little House on the Prairie. If you like horror, you'll love Little House on the Prairie. There's very horrific things in that TV show.
I mean, that's true.
They had a whole episode about the plague. They had an episode where Ma tried to cut her leg off. I mean,
they blew up the town.
They blew up the town. Like, as a, like, what are we gonna do? We've got a problem. Let's just blow up this town. I think we should blow up this town.
Not enough people blow up a town. That would solve so many problems.
I think it might create other problems.
You mess around.
Chernobyl
you get your town
comes to mind.
You mess around and you find out. That's just about our saying.
It's our motto, really. So yeah, I write speculative fiction, horror type stuff. So, but a lot of mine is centered around like your old school monsters, like werewolves. I love werewolves and vampires and ghosts and magic users of sort. Like not like Dumbledore, but like. You know,
with Dumbledore?
There's nothing wrong with Dumbledore, but I mean, I don't write Harry Potter type magic. I write like folky type stuff. So my book series is set in Appalachia. It's Appalachian supernatural noir. It's a mouthful.
It is a niche.
I feel like it's a niche, and it's you know, it's really fun to write in. So it's like a crime family and they're werewolves, and they have problems they have to solve. They don't blow up the town. They might in the next one. I don't do that.
I mean, you gotta blow up the town. That's what you had me at Appalachia.
It's an all bets off kind of area.
They'll toss a stick of dynamite in a lake to get some fish. So,
well, and I mean, true to brand, your recorder is sitting on a bottle of moonshine pickles right now. So that sums up. That tells you everything you need to know about this table.
I'd say so.
Your recorder is on moonshine pickles.
Yeah, your recorder is on a mason jar filled with moonshine pickles.
Well, it has a barcode. So
I got it at Total Wine, so it's legit. I mean, it tastes like it might be toilet alcohol, but I'm not a fancy folk, so.
No. It doesn't come from fancy Canada.
I don't come from fancy. I'm not from Quebec.
So this is more centered in like folklore.
This is more. So the front 3 are
maybe
Native
North American.
So this one is definitely indigenous. And
okay, that's the word.
Yes, and it's set in Alberta, so it's set in Western Canada. Okay. About the Wendigo, which is a huge kind of folklore mythology up there, and it's interspersed with an Albertan serial. He's not a serial killer, but a notorious killer who killed and ate his family. and he was an RCMP officer or a police officer back in the 1800s.
It's a mountain.
Yes, a mountain. How do you know? That's amazing. I say that to people who like RCMP. But he ate his family during one of the winters in traveling from the Hudson Bay. And he showed up, he was RCMP, he showed up at his cop shop and he's like, oh, sorry about it, they froze to death. They didn't. So they went out and found the family. So I took, this is in modern times, and I took that story and combined it with the story of the Wendigo, which was his legal defense. He said, sorry, I was consumed mentally by the Wendigo, the spirit of the Wendigo. And they're like, you weren't. And he was the first criminal hung in the province of Alberta. So I used that. So every story of these front three have an element of truth in terms of the folklore. Blood Whale is the Banshees, and that is set in Ireland, and there is elements of national landmarks in Ireland that show supernatural. There's a statue that everybody says she levitates and her eyes bleed, and they attribute it to the Banshees. So I try and intersperse some, I don't want to say non-fiction but you know, mythology, local mythology.
Inspired by true events.
Exactly. It's The Conjuring, inspired by true events, of which there was maybe 2 seconds that was true. Maybe. And it was her clothes, so it's fine. The rest are pure fiction. This was a childhood story. My sister is a jerk, and she used to terrorize my brother and tell him there was a witch living under our basement stairs. And as an adult, I'm like, that makes a great story, because Stephen would never go downstairs because of this witch. It's like, well, what if there was something? And this woman wonders her whole life, is there something upstairs? So that's kind of
creepy.
That's not for the wise. That's all I'm going to say about that. This is short stories, mostly creature horror, very Lovecraftian.
Okay.
Tentacles and talons.
I did notice the tentacles just now.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. And that's a mix of soft science fiction and creature horror, ghost demon. It's a hodgepodge of everything. So you got it all, except romance. There's no romance. Oh, there's a romance in this. Bethany Chambers is in that. That's romantic.
This has romance in it.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
It does.
This is romance.
Something.
It's something. I like to call this erotica. My publisher insisted I use a different name in publishing that one. She's like, let's not confuse your readers. I'm like, okay.
The old pen name trick, huh?
The old pen name trick. So
sweet. I would buy something right now, but this backpack is a mirage. It's all full.
These events are good for that, and two, that you'll be full upon flyers that will weigh you down. Take our business cards. Everything is online. Our ebooks. She has an audiobook for her first in her series.
Oh, that'll help.
So everything is online. You can find us everywhere.
Okay.
You will not miss out, I promise.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. What about your books, Jessica?
Okay, so again, Appalachian supernatural noir. So everything has like a monster, supernatural element. I love magic. I love old school monsters. So some of my favorite stuff are like, you know, the Universal Dracula and the Werewolf, the Wolfman and Frankenstein and all that. So I gravitate towards like the old school monsters and write that. Yeah, this is a whole series. So Tooth and Nail is the first one, The Hard Truth is the second one, and Rack and Ruin is the third and final one.
So we got a series here.
They're all available on ebooks, and Tooth and Nail actually is available as an audiobook. I'm super proud of it. It was really fun to do that project because it's really cool to hear somebody else read your story out loud and kind of bring it to life for you. When you hear that character's voice for the first time, you're like, wow, that is so fun. So
is it on Audible?
Yes, it's on Audible.
Okay.
And I think Audibles are on sale right now, I heard. I don't control that. I wish I could control it, but Audible does what they want.
It's Prime Day. They have like a Prime Day.
Yeah, it's Prime Day, so they have a sale. So that's my series. This is a book it's a zombie apocalypse book, so it's set about 20 years after a zombie apocalypse, and imagine a society where, and it was inspired by like Roman gladiators and like what would you do to support your family and when everything collapses. So they fight zombies to support their family, and it's a fun book. It's really adventure. There's a lot of action in it, a lot of, you know, zombie gore, because that's fun,
that's
right?
a new take. I had given up on the genre because the books were basically like, you know, Mary Sue encounters zombie apocalypse. They make every correct decision as people around them die until they until the book ends.
Yeah, and I mean, I had trouble with the zombie genre. I got sick of it with The Walking Dead and everything, which is masterfully done, but it gets old, it gets quite boring. Train to Busan was great, and then that is a totally different take on what society does after the zombie.
Yeah, I mean,
that's really cool.
This character grew up, like, she was a little kid, like 3 years old when the apocalypse went down, and so she doesn't know anything else. So she and her family, they die off and stuff, and she has a little sister and a brother who has a disability, and she has to support them. And I was really inspired by the idea that a lot of gladiators in Rome, like, they weren't, like, they willingly went in to make money. It was like a career choice for them. And so that's what she does, and she's really good at it. Imagine, like, your whole life you grew up trying to fight in this world. You're going to be really good at it. So she's really good at it, but she's not really good with people. So she struggles with some other things. But it's fun. It's adventure-y.
How are you?
You kind of throw everything with the kitchen sink in a zombie book and have fun with it. And writing action is a lot harder than I thought it would be. It was a real challenge. So I had a great time writing it.
You know who did it?
And I mean, zombies, you're right. Like, I think that genre can get a little dry.
Every so often we get
you have a lot more room for it than you think you do, because you can go, okay, what about 20 years later? What about 50 years later? What about this? It's kind of fun. So I really enjoyed writing it. Probably, I think that was the first novel I wrote. That was the second novel I wrote. And
she's been a stylist for 30 years. And
that is a really cool idea. These, I'm sure, are also cool ideas. But I'm not as familiar with this niche.
41 years old, so it's getting
and she said, I would say if you are a fan of the TV show, those are like
the way she,
that doesn't have like supernatural elements in it, but it's like
You ever see Outsiders?
the Stephen King episode.
No, it was on WGN. It had Ryan Hurst in it.
Oh yeah, I know that show. Yeah, a little bit. That's like kind of post-apocalyptic. These are not post-apocalyptic. They're like in the sort of the now.
And when she was done, I'm like,
you know, I'm from Appalachia. I'm originally from Ohio, and the border of Ohio and West Virginia was real mountainy right there. And so, tiny town. The town I grew up in had like 600 people.
And my hair is
so
misbehaved.
Hills, mountains.
A lot of it is straight, and then I have that really weird. My mom always talks about
characters that I could just write about their real people that I knew at some point in my life.
Without embellishing.
Without really embellishing them. I mean, in these books, I make them into some kind of a monster. You know,
she did a great job.
In fact, in this book,
let her know that she's an artist. She loves to hear that people enjoy her.
Way back in a holler near where I live.
You know what?
Everybody knew who they were.
I live here in Houston, and this past 4 days, my husband and I have been nonstop. We're immunized. It's not COVID, but it's got to be allergies.
I love monsters.
It's got to be allergies.
And I love writing
all of
weird stuff. I mean, this is Jae and I's collection together,
especially,
and it's the most varied collection we have. So there's all kinds of stories in there. And we didn't tell people who wrote what. So we're very different as writers. Like, our styles are totally different. But in some cases in there, I think you would struggle to tell who wrote what.
So he's like, try my spice.
Like, I don't know.
You don't understand.
I thought Jess did, but I guess Jay did. Or I thought Jay did. Just like Jess exact. And we had a lot of fun putting this together.
So you don't co-op them, but you do.
No, the stories are individual. So like, she wrote one, I wrote one, but we don't tell you who wrote them. I mean, it's till the end of the book. So then you can guess.
It's like remember that old Jonathan Frakes TV show?
Yes.
I can't remember what the name of it, but it was. Can you spot the skit that was a lie?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Did you think that was the truth? You were wrong.
You were wrong. Yeah. We love telling people that. People we know that have read the book, and we're like, "You think I wrote that? No, wrong." So.
Yeah. Some of them you can definitely tell, but some of them you can't. Because, I mean, a lot of these were born out of, we write in a competition a lot of times called New York City Midnight, where you get prompts, like they give you a genre to write in, and then like a character to write, and like a word or some weird thing. So, I mean, you'll get like, write a sci-fi story with a potato, and the character is a waiter or something like that. And you have 48 hours to write a story with all that. And integrate it seamlessly so nobody can tell what you were trying to put
what your prompts are. And it's really random. I received the potato as a prompt. It was...
you did get you got a potato.
It was historical fiction, a potato, and... I remember the third one, but it was...
military parade.
Military parade, a potato, and historical fiction. I'm like, what the... I always get the food. I also got a banana, a beach house, and suspense. I'm like, there's nothing suspenseful about a banana.
Will they slip on the peel?
Yeah.
What will happen? We'll never know.
But yeah, a lot of those stories came out of that.
Most of what's in there is that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's fun. It's a fun exercise.
It is a lot of
It's really
fun.
good for you if you're a writer to do stuff like that because you kind of stretch out.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
And it was our first foray into writing short screenplays as well. So we have our initial screenplays in there that actually received some positive feedback. And that was a good exercise for formatting and style and scripting.
And learning how to write, I mean, a screenplay is very different than writing a novel or a short story. There's a lot of different elements that go into it, so we had to learn that on the fly, but we did.
Oh, we rocked it.
Well, you know, now's a great time to try and get that script made.
Yes.
People are looking for all new voices, let's just say.
Well, with the world getting back to normal, right? Everybody's
Right.
eager to start up again, right? And
Yeah.
some people are not as eager to start up, so the field isn't quite as competitive now. So they're looking at the new voices and new interpretations of things and new styles. So
It was very nice talking to you.
it was lovely talking to you as well.
This is again Jessica Raney, and she waved.
Again.
And they can see
Jae
it.
Mazer, Canadian in disguise.
In disguise.
Texan. I am Texan.
Back for day 2 of the Houston Horror Film Fest. I'm going to kick things off with an interview with Brianna Young and see who else I can snag today. She's the filmmaker behind Bloomfield, one of the features presented at this year's Film Fest, and up for several of the awards that they are presenting this evening. So let's see how that goes. Well, I'm here today with Brianna Young and Jennifer Moriarty from Bloomfield here at the Houston Horror Film Fest. They've agreed to meet with me today and talk about their film, their labor of love. Is this the premier film festival for Bloomfield?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. How did you like the response yesterday?
I think it was pretty impressive.
It was very impressive. We had a sold out show, so that was something really cool. And then we also had a Q&A, so I wasn't expecting that either.
I think the feedback was amazing because, you know, you've been working on a movie. We've been working on this for 2 years almost, and this was the first public showing. And then to be able to have people actually give you kind of real time, this is what we think, you know, we were kind of like biting our nails, and all of a sudden the feeling was unanimous in terms of where's the sequel, when is the sequel coming out, and that was
a
something
big question.
Yeah, we were waiting for. So
I'm sure that pandemic didn't help to dissuade that sort of feeling of being in a vacuum in terms of what are people going to think of my movie.
Exactly. We've only had it online, so we get like comments and etc. But this was great to see it in person and have people actually respond to it in person. And we didn't know if we were going to make a sequel. But yesterday's response was very clear. People were asking, is there going to be a sequel? So now we have some writing to do.
yeah.
So how long did it take from start to finish?
2.5 years.
2.5 years? And,
Yes.
And is this your idea entirely, Brianna?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to make something original. Like, that's what I knew. It was in 2018, Jordan Peele's movie came out, his first feature movie.
Get Out?
Get Out came out, and I thought it was such an original idea, and so I started conjuring up these ideas. I was like, well, what kind of story do I want to make? Well, I love Rosemary's Baby. I think that's really cool and weird, and I love Snow White. I always loved Snow White. So I started taking these elements from these movies, and The Shining. The Shining is one of my favorite horror films. So even the opening of Bloomfield, I gave this huge, long opening shot, like showing the woods and the town of Bloomfield to give that The Shining feel. And then we also had our composer score a song just like The Shining. from the opening shot.
If listeners, viewers, if you haven't been to a film festival before, or a horror film festival before, you might not know it, but a 2-hour feature is wildly ambitious compared to what most people bring to this sort of thing. And this is what you guys brought, was a 2-hour and a big story that involves something that this person was born into, that they're trapped. This is a story that you don't normally get. Normally it's like, you know, run from the slasher, yada yada yada, and you brought something much bigger. What drove you to want to tell such a big story and not shy away from a long runtime?
Well, I love the movie, like The Others, The Shining, like I was just saying. Those movies, they don't have a lot of gore. They are
Right.
very story driven and character driven. And so when I was crafting these characters, when I was done with the script, I was like, oh wow, I have a lot of characters. And everyone in film school, like my producing teachers, they were like, you know, that you shouldn't make this as your first feature. You should go and make something else, like with, you know, smaller characters, limited locations. And I was like, you know what? No, I want to go and do this. This is a story I want to tell. So it had so many locations, it had so many characters, and so with all of that, it brought this huge story. And with each scene, like, you're never missing a beat. Like, the story is just always enveloping. And I was a little nervous about, like, us fitting in, because there's just slasher movies here.
Right.
So
right.
I didn't know how everyone was going to respond, but I think the response was good. And I think it is good that there is something different here, and I'm so happy that they allowed our film into here, because it shows that horror can be shown through any type of story, not just slasher. It can
Right.
be a real drama story.
Jennifer, your character is sort of the antagonist,
Right.
Although she has her own reasons for what
Right.
she does. What kind of inspiration did you draw for your portrayal of that character?
Well, Brianna and I met kind of serendipitously through a friend, and she brought me the script, and I felt like it was written, it had a real vintage vibe to it, and had kind of a 1950s archetypal villain, which is Aunt Tilda, the character I play. And some of the language just seemed, there was a lot of, a couple of deers and honeys, and she just seemed like she was out of another decade. And so when I didn't know Brie at all, we went to the reading, and I just threw a southern accent in at it, and I said, how do you feel if I pull this girl up from the deep south and really go at this from sort of a vintage sort of aspect? So somebody kind of a 1950s, and Brie had really done a beautiful job with her lookbook, which basically her director's book showed this incredible story of what she wanted from Tilda, which was kind of the Maleficent, but in a modern day 1950s style housewife, Southern housewife. And of course she ends up to be the villain, the evil priestess, the high priestess, and without giving anything away in the story, she was written to be just totally demonic. I mean, it was very difficult because from the very beginning, she is not a sweet woman, and we see her for what she is very clearly and quickly. But the way that we developed the arc at the end, we had some really interesting things that came out through our improv that we got to do together on set, and through some of the other relationships with the young man, Rory, who plays my son. Secret son. Secret son. There were just some really twisted things that came about that I think made the characterization really complete and full, and I think that's what people are responding to, because it isn't a slasher gore pick. So if the audiences are coming for that, what they'll find instead is something more Kubrick, very much character driven, and a thriller. It's very twisted and creepy, very creepy.
It's a nightmarish tale. That's what I like to think about it.
And you kind of wrote it like, it developed over time too, because we had so much time to shoot that it developed like a storybook. Brie really had this idea of it being like almost Snow White's like the evil queen telling this story, so we added in all this narration.
The narration was not in the original script.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would have been a different movie without that narration.
Yeah. And I think it really, what I loved about working with her as a director, I'm just kind of adding this in, but, was that there was this really cool karma between us, and that it was like something sort of, as I said, serendipitous would happen, and we'd go, God, that really works. And we ended up developing the narration to sort of intertwine that sort of Snow White feel about this fairy tale that's gone really dark. It's very dark. And she was so innocent, and she's so, so lovely and youthful. And then you had this really creepy chick with these 3-inch long nails, and it was just, it got this sort of cult vibe. And I think that's where what a lot of the feedback has been on the film is that it's, people are like, oh, this is really destined to be a cult classic. And you've got a beautiful ingenue running around in a pink baby doll nightgown. And then you've got this chick in this flip bouffant black wig, and it's like crazy makeup, and it's really kind of a Pulp Fiction meets Rocky Horror Picture Show at times. It's very, very creepy.
Well, I got all sorts of vibes. I mean, I don't want to make undue comparisons in case that wasn't the place you were going, but I felt a lot of Hereditary in there.
Oh, good.
In that sense of, like I mentioned, this person was born into this and they didn't even know, and they're kind of trapped. So when you think about an idea of a sequel, it's sort of a natural that she might think she's running, but
there's no escape.
There's no escape.
Basically,
no escape.
Right.
Yeah.
I also, you mentioned The Shining, and this isn't a comparison based on skin color, but when I saw Mr. Del Lagos, I was thinking, oh shit, that's Dick Halloran.
Yeah, true, right?
So I don't know if that's the place you were going, but I felt it while I was watching it. So you mentioned film school, and I see that you are a young person. Mm-hmm. So this production, though, feels like it was put together by people that have been long out of film school. How did you pull together a crew to pull off? You have drone shots, you have sound that doesn't sound like this is the first time you did sound.
Way to go, Tyler Casey, on that. Yeah.
We had an amazing composer. Yeah. So.
You have, both the ADR and the practical sound, the on-set sound, as well as the film grading, never skipped a beat. It was always right there to convey that mood of otherworldliness and small towning, off the grid, like Bloomfield is supposed to be. So how did you assemble these believers in Bloomfield?
Well, I'm going to be honest. We shot the movie basically for $5,000. This feature-length movie.
It does not feel like $5,000.
But I was in my last year of film school in Los Angeles, and we were able to check out, $100,000 worth of film gear. The camera that we shot with is a Sony F55, and Martin Scorsese was actually using that on that show vinyl. So
really?
We were using like this top dollar equipment, so that really saved our production.
Scorsese is a noted slow convert to digital.
Yes. And, I was asking for a lot of favors. I needed all of these vintage cars. I was like, well, can you come this day when we're filming on this day? And I was just pulling strings that didn't even exist. We just made it happen.
When you're having the party and the woman pulls up in like the 1930s car, that as a car kind of guy, that instantly was question marks, like, wait a second, is this cabal of cannibals, are they magic? Because there's a certain age-defying aspect to what I'm seeing in this group, because you show different times, and then you show different actors, and I'm thinking, that's the hottest 70-year-old I've ever seen. And Rory, he looks like he uses a lot of skin cream for a 50-year-old man.
Right.
So,
right.
So is there a supernatural aspect?
There is a supernatural aspect with the town. Like, you'll notice that there's this character named Trixie, and she's the hospital lady smoking a cigarette in the past.
The redhead.
And then she's also in the present still flirting with Rory. So she slept with young Tilda's husband, and then she was also still going after
Back for more.
Lori.
Yeah.
So and you know, we were on set, and some of our producers were like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "It's a story world that I'm wanting to create." I was like, "It doesn't have to make sense."
And I think some of the characters are transcendent. I think that Tilda ages in a different way. I think that was one of the inspirations for taking the wig off. That wasn't in the script originally, and the idea was that, you know, she wanted a brunette, and, you know, how do we make the two Tildas kind of line up, the younger Tilda and the older Tilda? But when the wig comes off and you see what's happening,
she's really rotting on the inside.
She's rotting away. Her hair and scalp are rotting away. She's got, you know, the beautiful face, but everything is put together.
Who knows? The cannibalism might be helping with that.
Yeah, I think there is an aspect of that where you constantly see her. Tilda's constantly licking her fingers with the blood. She has the blood on her skin. You know, there's that what is that, adrenogen or adrenochrome? You know, that whole concept of the youth is coming through the feeding off of people's power. And but I think it's that transcendental world that we wanted to create and make it feel like people were timeless. And I think you'll see that in the sequel, where there will be glimpses into what happens as, you know, whether it's Bree was saying, you know, maybe the veins show up and you see her covering that up. I mean, she very carefully applies all of the makeup, and there's a lot of talk about makeup and the appearances of Tilda and you know what she wanted in her life and so forth, when especially in that scene when we're on the bed and you see, I watched that again last night on the screen, and Brianna's character Elaine looks back at her. You could have been on the magazine, and she's like, there's that moment where it's like, no, that would have never happened, because there's this weird world she's entered into. And I think you feel that through the lighting and the camera work too. I think they did a beautiful job with that, you know, creating that surreal kind of quality. Did you pick that up?
Well, in that scene, I felt a lot of vibes, and when the wig came off, that felt like a little bit like her. I feel like there's some madness there, and I feel like it was sort of starting to boil over a little bit, because this girl won't won't come to heel. Right. And literally flipped her wig.
I like that one.
So what's the future for Bloomfield? More events like this, bigger events?
Yeah, we have, as executive producer, we kind of got the film, you know, Bree and the team. And by the way, I just wanted to shout out Andrew Geisler and Anthony Ryan Johnson, who are the cinematographers on it, brilliant people. And we had Christopher Boucher, who wrote an original score on the music is just gorgeous. And so Bree and I had the luxury. I had the luxury of being an actress on it, but, you know, Bree assembled an amazing team. And, you know, kind of at the back end of it, she's like, okay, Jen, go find us some viewers. So we brought on a consulting producer, Wayne Watkins, who has been helping me now assemble a whole festival circuit. So we've entered 23 festivals. We just recently were admitted to Barcelona, and we've applied to Sydney, and there's a couple places in London. We've won in several festivals already for Best Feature Film. We just won semi-finalist in Portland at Screenfest. We won Best Feature in Washington State, and so we're just now getting all of our festival entries here. We have 5 nominations at the Houston Horror Festival.
We're going to find out tonight.
Yeah, we have, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Feature Film, and Best Cinematography. And so we're hoping that's going to be kind of square one, and then from there we're moving to distribution and hiring an aggregator and looking for our feature on Amazon Prime in about the next 30, we hope 45 days. That is not an easy venture to get all of the details sorted, but you know, we're hoping for really big things with Bloomfield, and through the support of viewers and, you know, people helping us market, we hope to reach some pretty lofty goals with it.
And I'm so excited that I actually made a horror film, because the horror community is so supportive. You don't have a community like this with drama movies, or
the rom-com community.
Or yeah, like, you know, so just the support with the community is just overwhelming. It makes it that much worth it.
They give you a sense of belonging, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's something. I mean, this is my first horror festival of any sort, but I've been to several genre festivals, and it's you know, they can kind of fit together in odd ways.
It's like an odd family.
Yeah.
Very much so. Well, guys, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. Where can they find it if they were online?
Well, right now, you can find the movie and watch it directly on Vimeo.com on demand. So Vimeo on demand. Don't just go into Vimeo. Got to go onto the on-demand platform. And then Bloomfield, the movie there's only a few of them to select from, so they can find that very easily. And in about, as I said, another 45 days, we should be streaming on Amazon.
Yeah, we have an Instagram. It's Bloomfield Movie. We have a Facebook. It's also Bloomfield Movie. But our Instagram is the biggest following.
But we'd love for you guys to follow us and check out some of the behind-the-scenes photographs and small clips from the movie that we drop up on that.
And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Jen or I through the Bloomfield Movie Instagram, and we'll get back to you.
All right, I'm here today with Dave McAbee, who is the director of a short film here at the Houston Horror Film Festival called Nova. This one, man, it stood out immediately for, well, everything. I have been privy to, I don't know, 20 or 30 short films at this film festival today, of varying levels of filmmaking skill, familiarity, competence, all those things. And what stands out about Nova to me was all those things. I just can't say enough good things. One thing that stood out immediately, though, was that you used digital effects in a non-intrusive sort of way that I haven't really seen here. Unless, I mean, I've seen a couple, but they didn't work the same way. Cool. So, man, okay, let's just start at the beginning. Where did the idea for Nova come from?
I had just finished my feature called For the Love of Jesse, and one of the actors from that came to me. She's like, hey, I want to continue working. Let's continue making stuff together. We all like each other. Still, yeah, still. After working on a feature in the desert for zero money. Let's make something. She's like, write me a comedy action. And I said, I'm not funny. I do not write funny. I don't know how to write funny. But I've kind of got this idea for like a one-take transformation thing. I had watched An American Werewolf in London. And that transformation scene is just the most badass even to date. But I thought, how cool would it be to see something like that in a oneer? How painful that would be, you know, and then kind of just spawned from there, someone like giving their last words, recording their last words while transforming into a thing. They don't know what's going to happen. And I pitched her this idea, and she says, okay, all right. And she read the script, she liked the script, and we were off to the races.
I started watching it, and I'm thinking, okay, he's got a Steadicam, and then I thought, nope, this this is not a Steadicam. Yep. I know you already mentioned this in the room, but why don't you tell the listeners and the viewers how did you do this oneer, as you call it, because this was hard. This was not your run-of-the-mill approach to doing this.
Hard is the easiest way to put it. I had pitched this to my DP, David Smith, who's a genius DP, cameraman, MacGyver of humans. And I kind of pitched him that idea, the Steadicam, or like on a track. I was like, and then we just put it on a dolly, and then every time we're behind her head, we can cut, and bada bing, there's your transformation. He was like, cute idea. We can go bigger. Let me try something. And he built a robotic arm that hung from the rafters of our studio. And he programmed a whole thing so that he can control the camera and the arm, the tilt, the zoom, the pan, all from Video Village, which was just right on the other side of the doors in the short. And that way it gave our actor, Kelly Kula, complete freedom in the room. So each rotation is one transformation, which is one take, which is one cut. So we did each transformation a total of 3 or 4 times just to make sure we got it. and then our amazing editors over at Foxtrot X-Ray stitched every frame together. Every time it went right around past her head, around I guess if you're looking at a clock, a 5 o'clock, they would start stitching everything together. So it was never a blackout cut. It was you could always see something. You could see the camera in the background, or you could see both sides of the frame. So it never went completely black.
I was starting to look for those kind of cheats. Cuts, points.
And that we always, I always said, if all of this goes to hell and they can't stitch it, we shot in 4K, we could always punch in. And again, thank God for my producer and my cinematographer. They're like, we can go bigger and better. Those are great. We have that in the can. We can always punch in and cut and do a cut behind the head, behind the back, but let's do it right. And so every time Kelly had to be in the exact same position, and we had to just match frame from the previous frame to make sure she was in the exact same position when it went behind her head, so it would cut evenly. And again, thank God to our amazing editors for spending hours upon hours stitching it together. And then to go back what you were saying about adding CG and to our practical, it's like 80%, 75% practical effects, all the blood, all the gore. We just enhanced a little bit with some of the veins crawling up her arm or up into her neck, or at the very end when her face starts to decay. Just, little touches of stuff here and there, but 75-80% of it is all practical.
I mean, it's seamless, and you've got the helmet cam. I was wondering when I saw the face shield and all that, was your movie a pandemic baby?
It was a foreshadowing pandemic baby.
Okay.
We finished it just before things kind of popped off, and I really had this in my head. I had just finished a feature, like I said. I wanted to do something, quote, easy. It's like one girl, one room, one camera. It should be easy. Let's just do it. And it ended up being one of the most challenging things we've ever done. Again, just for everything I just explained, matching frames and the effects and everything.
When you see short films, especially at a horror con, you might just very palpably understand that what you're watching is basically someone's demo reel. That they love, makeup effects or whatever, so they found an excuse to stitch that together into a story. And you get this short that basically explains the whole thing, start to finish in 5-10 minutes, and it's done. Yours has some chops in it that does definitely say, if you're looking for something good, here's my card. But but also, you start in the middle of a story. Something has already happened. And unlike some others that I've seen, I want to know what came ahead. Like, we have this event that went awry, kind of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but more terrible.
Yes. Very terrible. It's not good. Whatever happened, as you've seen, it opens on black with sound effects of chaos. I wanted us to start at the top of Act 3.
Right.
Like, I wanted everyone to know, like, shit just went real bad out in the world, out beyond those walls of this room. Things are real bad. And here's how we're trying to end it, solve it, or fix it. And again, like, I wanted to start it in Act 3 without, like, having to catch everyone up real quick. I wanted there to be a little mystery with the chaos that's happening outside. And again, that hopefully will come in play one day when we make the show or make the movie.
I mean, there's enough to go on that you understand completely what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes with horror shorts, it's a little too abstract, and you get that sort of like, what happened? Do I care?
Yep, exactly.
But I do care. I do want to know. And so, you did it.
Thank you. World, you've heard it. Paul likes it. He wants to hear more. There's got to be more out there. Let's make this thing. Let's do it.
For the film nerds out there, what did you use to shoot? What did you use to put it all together?
To shoot, we used a Panasonic camera that is yet to be released. So I can't really talk about the type of camera or the model of the Panasonic.
But it's a 4K Panasonic.
4K Panasonic camera. I couldn't even begin to tell you what they used to put it together as far as post, because all my team at Foxtrot X-Ray, who are amazing guys, used their magic, used their dark wizardry to stitch all of that together. And then my amazing editor, Miguel Modio, whom I've worked with on almost all my projects, cut everything together and lined it up, and then all the team at Foxtrot stitched it all together.
So you're a true director.
I try to be, on a good day.
Where'd you get your training?
I grew up in video stores.
The Quentin Tarantino
Yeah,
school.
I grew honestly, I grew up in video stores. I've been in the entertainment industry for 12 years, 15 years. I was a radio producer, and then now I produce and direct docu-reality things for Discovery and all that. So I work a lot behind the camera, but with one feature under my belt and a handful of shorts, I try to keep those chops as sharp as possible.
That feature, is it distributed?
It is out in the world. It's called For the Love of Jesse. It stars Adrienne Barbeau, the amazing Adrienne Barbeau, Randy Wayne, and Mandala Rose. Not a horror movie, but I had to cast Adrienne to scratch that horror itch that I've always got.
The Fog.
I mean, Creep Show, Carnival, Escape from New York. I mean, that's growing up in video stores, scanning those boxes. I mean, she was on half the ones that were constantly rented that I would take home every weekend. So it was cool.
My wife and I are probably the only people our age that have seen reruns of Maude.
Yes.
So that's Adrienne in her youthful prime.
Yes, yeah, blowing up on Maude. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with what was the Golden Girl?
B. Arthur.
B. Arthur. Thank you. God, I can't forget. I can't remember. Yeah, B. Arthur. Yep.
Some iconic TV that gets a little cringy given today's standards, but it is worth watching once.
It's worth watching once, and yeah, who knows? That might even be like another reboot, a Maude reboot.
So future plans for Nova or yourself?
Future plans for Nova, again, crossing fingers, toes, and hairs, that we've got a feature script written, ready to go. It's gone on to win a whole bunch of awards. We've got a pilot script and a 6-episode arc ready to go. I think there's a lot of story with Nova. I think there's a lot to be told there. So hoping to expand on that story.
Can we spoil on this?
Yeah, we can just touch on it a little bit. It goes into like a lot of what you were saying, Paul, of what happened before.
Okay.
What led up to that point, and then also what happens after that point. So where do we go after that?
For a TV show, the fertile ground of a shape-shifting adversary.
Yes, very.
Because you don't need to reveal that right away.
No, and and that would be near the very end. That's what happens, episode 5 or 6, and it's in the series. It's very much the struggle of a mother loving a daughter that is
maybe right.
Yeah, maybe very different. And there's a lot there. It's very Devs meets Westworld. With just a lot of blood. Just a lot of blood. There's a lot of gore.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
I loved the short. I didn't love them all this weekend, but I did love that one.
Oh, I appreciate it. I know it feels so good to be at a physical horror show again. Like, we did all of 2020, we did all these virtual things, and you never know who's watching at a virtual fest.
And they're quiet in terms of like feedback.
They're quiet in terms of feedback. You never know, like, people are buying tickets to these things. Are they going to see the actual shorts? I know I'm watching mine or a couple of them, but you never know who's going to. But when you go to these things, you see people in seats nodding or not nodding or liking it or not liking it, whatever, but people are there, and that's the best part. So it feels good to be back.
Well, congratulations. I hope things turn out for it, because I'd like to see more about how the world of Nova.
The world of Nova. Let's make it happen, Paul.
All right, I'll be there.
Cool.
Before we go, Dave, how can people connect with you or the film, however you feel comfortable?
Yeah, you can find the film, Nova Short Film, on both Instagram and Facebook. Through there, you can find me, David McAbee, the bearded guy with glasses and probably some punk rock sleeveless shirt on all the pictures. But I'm an old school cat. Like, the social medias are out there. You can find me on there. I'm not very active on them, other than Nova, but you can find my email, like, let's talk about movies. Let's chat. You know, let's do it. So you can find me. I'm out there on all the social medias.
TV producers, take heed. I'm here today with Josh Logan, JM Logan, if you're nasty, at the Houston Horror Film Fest. He's brought his short film, The Relic. I just watched this in an unsupervised screening, unsanctioned, if you will, but I'm glad I did. It stands out as a super professional production. I could tell that the people making this did not go back to work in their bakeries and banks after making this film. This was not a weekend passion. What I saw here was real sets, real lighting, real camera work, real sound, and a really real monster.
Thank you.
How'd all this come together?
Well, this was, we'll call it a pandemic short, though it wasn't originally going to be one. I was going to shoot this in March before a big project that I had was starting, and I wanted to get another short film shot, so I had something to work on while I'm doing my other project. So we were going to shoot in March, and everyone knows what happened in March. So
the world stopped.
Like we were like ready to go, and I'd like pulled all my friends together. I did a short film called Lunch Ladies a couple years ago that was a horror comedy, and I really wanted to do something that was, I mean, it was a blast. It was so much fun, and it did really well at the festivals, but I wanted to do something that was just pure genre. Like, I grew up as a makeup effects guy. I worked in makeup effects for 15 years. Worked at all the shops, built a bunch of monsters, slung a lot of blood, and so horror has been my home for a long time. But I'd never really made a pure horror film.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to make something that was like an homage to the movies that I grew up watching and the horror renaissance of the 1980s. So I wanted to do everything as practical as possible. I wanted to have a real creature, and because I worked in effects for so long, I have a lot of friends that still do that work. So I partnered with my buddy Matt Folletta, and he came on as a producer also. And I pulled in like all of my favorite people, because I mean, when you've been working in movies this long, like the best possible scenario is to make movies with your friends, which is where we all started. We all started doing weekend passion projects, and it's like, get together with your group of friends at a video camera on a weekend and make something and cut it together, and then try and keep doing that and make the thing that you're making better and better. And now, after 30 years working in movies, that's all I want to be doing again, is getting together with my friends on weekends and making movies. So that's really how it came together. So I've been a Lovecraft fan for a long time, and I just sat down and blasted out this short and just said, I'm going to make this just a balls-out monster movie with tons of questions and no answers, and hopefully the ride will be satisfying, not having any answers by the end.
There are no answers, and it seems to start in Act 2 after, I won't say that they're heroes, but our protagonists have found the MacGuffin, and it was more than they bargained for. When you say homage, I mean, I'm glad you said that, because I felt vibes of Evil Dead. Mm-hmm. I felt vibes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that I should have felt those things. Were there other inspirations that you drew from?
Well, The Thing is my all-time favorite horror movie, and so I feel like anything that I ever do ever will be in some way an homage to The Thing. And all of the other, like Brian Usna, Stuart Gordon, Lovecraft movies that came out in the 80s, From Beyond, Reanimator, all of those have always been my favorites. And I feel like those are the filmmakers that really, really got Lovecraft right. And so,
it's a short list.
Yeah, it's a short list. And so, I feel like I can't help but make things the way that, I saw them from there, and just try and add whatever spin I can bring to the table to it.
So you wrote the script?
Yeah.
How many pages?
It was 19 pages.
19 pages?
But I knew it was going to be short because the dialogue is so fast. So, the whole movie is just people yelling at each other back and forth as quickly as possible, and keeping the pace up was exactly what I wanted to do. So it was a longish script, but I knew it would probably come down. I was hoping to hit about 13 minutes, so 14 is not too bad, all things considered.
That's one thing I wanted to mention, was the pace. having sat through a number of shorts and features here at the festival, I would say the default fallback for filmmakers submitting was to use the slow burn, let's just call it, as their approach to suspense and creating tension. I noted that yours was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And that is an approach I haven't seen a lot of this weekend. So congratulations on a real pedal to the metal kind of experience.
I think that the approach of the slow burn can be incredibly effective if you have time to build the right tension. I mean, some of my favorite horror shorts that I've seen while just traveling around on the festival circuit have been slow burns, because you can build an amazing amount of tension, but it's just a different approach of doing it. You know, my idea was to hit you in the face from the beginning and then never let go, which is just another approach. But the slow burn is obviously incredibly successful, especially in horror films like Paranormal Activity and The Grudge. Like those kinds of movies are like they build their entire suspense base off of that, which is incredibly effective. So I understand why filmmakers lean that direction, and I never can fault anyone for doing it.
You mentioned that your friends are in the biz, in the industry, and the look of the thing it says that. Was that cabin a real cabin?
It actually is. I essentially rented out a summer camp in the Riverside Mountains, so up towards Idlewild in California. So I was going to do this in March of 2020. Everything closed down, and then we all sat around doing nothing for 2 months. And then we all started to talk again about, because it's a very contained location, it's not that many actors, and I figured we could do it with a really small crew. And so I sort of posed it to the gang if they'd be interested in putting it together as a pandemic short and have it be an experiment. I mean, no one had any idea what was going on at that point.
Sure.
So we built it intentionally to be like a how do we make movies during a pandemic experiment. So we had very limited interaction. We did everything over Zoom, and it was really just us kind of practicing like how do we make movies in this new paradigm, especially super low budget stuff. And everyone was totally game because we're all really bored. So, I basically got every single person that I've known that I asked said yes, because they didn't have anything else to do. So I got to totally capitalize on some incredibly talented people that I never would have had, would have been able to get. Not because people don't do favors for each other, but just because they're all so busy.
Right.
So it just so happened that I got to catch everyone. Like one of my lead actors, Johnny Wachter, who played Marcus. He's on General Hospital. He's working every day, like literally every day, memorizing like 300 pages of dialogue every day, and so I never would have been able to get him if it wasn't during this very unique, specific place and time. So yeah, I was able to pull together all of this incredibly talented group of people, and that's why it looks so great. Is because I got first pick on everything with everything. I got very, very lucky. So we shot in late June. We were the first short to be issued a film permit. Actually, the first film permit issued in Riverside County. Right when they started moving things again, we got approved by SAG. We were among the first productions approved by SAG to shoot.
Big deal.
So we had a safety monitor. We built our own white paper. This was before even IATSE had their COVID shooting white paper. So we built our own white paper and had everything safe. And I found a summer camp that is up in Riverside County that slept 60 people. So it's 3 cabins that are just completely contained. It's its own private place. It has its own parking lot, and it's gorgeous. It's just like out in the trees with this rushing river right nearby, and so we basically were able to house everyone there. So we just basically moved in, and the only thing that went in or out is food, and we quarantined and potted and tested and did everything that we needed to, but all at a real location. So the exterior is a different cabin, but it's at the same site, and then the interior is their big lodge. And it was a great experience. We shot split days, so we didn't really start shooting until noon every day. So we'd shoot like noon to 1 a.m. or something. But every morning I got to wake up in this beautiful nature with these gorgeous trees and the sun coming in and the river rushing, and sit on a park bench and go through my shot list. And I'm just thinking every day of my life should start like this. It was wonderful.
I'm sure your friends are like, next pandemic, let's make another movie.
Oh yeah. They're already like, what can we do next? Well, Canada's working. I'm working.
Did you shoot day for night for the lights, the kind of the blue light coming in through the windows?
We tinted we got really lucky with that location. The entire front of the cabin had a big overhang over top of it, so it was basically like a porch with a covered porch.
Yeah.
So we blacked out the entire outside. So we did shoot splits, so we didn't have to wake up super early every morning or shoot all night, because that was the other choice, was wait until it got dark, and it's summer, so it'd get dark at 8 and then we'd be shooting like 8 to 8, and we just wanted to make more control. So, but we had this great covered porch, and we blacked the entire thing out, and then we could light it how we wanted and shoot snow around from the outside, and it was kind of a perfect situation, so it didn't matter what time we were shooting.
Sounds like you didn't really have to compromise on like equipment or anything like that, since it wasn't being used for other projects.
Well, we all have garages full of stuff, and so we just made we didn't rent a single piece of gear for the entire project. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. I was thinking, did we actually rent something? I don't think we did. It was all just like an amalgamation of stuff that we had around from other productions, so it's all LED panel lights, but the whole concept of it was to be super dark. The only light I wanted was just light coming in through the windows, blue light coming in for moonlight, and then everything else is lit with flashlights. And that was intentional, because when you have super dark circumstance, you can make people believe anything.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got a trash bag monster that's all just specular highlights, and it's literally made out of plastic bags and bubble wrap.
Well, I mean, you sold it. It was a very convincing monster that used the lighting very effectively to make it look real. Especially when it's filling out. Mm-hmm. That's one of the aspects that reminded me of both The Thing and Evil Dead. Sort of that, it's coming into its full form aspect. The protagonists, I know you said there weren't any answers, but are they good guys? I mean, were they there to do some good, or were they there for some other purpose?
I kind of have not been telling people what the backstory is. I wrote an entire backstory for it. I wrote each character's individual backstory that I only gave to the actors. I gave each actor a secret that they were not supposed to share with anyone else. I did a huge amount of backstory for it.
Okay.
But the reason that I did that was to give the actors mass, so that everything that was happening had meaning for them. And if it has meaning for them, then hopefully the audience will feel like it has meaning, but not knowing exactly what that meaning was. So I really intentionally wanted people to come away only with questions. And the thing that's been really fun is that after people watch it, they come up with the most amazing stories themselves as to what happened and why they were there, and what the comet means at the end, and what, all of those things. And I saw people having so much fun discussing what they thought it was supposed to be, that I didn't want to ruin it with my own dumb story. Nothing that I was ever going to come up with would ever be as satisfying as the story that they were coming up with themselves. So it's been way more fun to just leave it at that.
I think that's a wise move, especially if the Relic has a future. Does it have a future? Is this a calling card? Is this a let's make a TV show, let's make a movie for Josh Logan and his crew?
Well, what I'm hoping is that I can turn this into a series of anthology features. So these characters and this story, if I were to flesh out the first act and second act of this movie, I don't think it would be very interesting, because I built the entire thing with the intention of it being only a third act.
Yeah.
So these characters and that situation, that part's done. We're not going to come back to that. But I'm building a Lovecraft-based universe that the other features that I'm writing will fit into. If you notice that the last card of the short is a dedication to a group of archaeologists that get lost in the Himalayas in 1969, and that is the hook for the next movie. So I'm designing several different features. I've got one that I've finished writing, and then I'm writing 2 others right now that are all kind of based around different tones and set in different time periods and with completely different characters, but all folding into the same mythology. So hopefully building a mythology that any spectrum of features could fit into, to keep it a little bit more open for creativity and different ways of using that universe.
archaeologists from Miskatonic University?
No, absolutely not. They will never have a Miskatonic shirt on. I think that's so overdone and so pat. And I mean, I'm really, I mean, I amount to a Lovecraft scholar. I've read all of his fiction numerous times. I've listened to the entire recorded audiobook, and I'm a huge fan of the worlds that he built. But I'm not going to do any direct interpretations of his stories literally.
Okay.
I think that the strongest thing that he built was an incredible universe that has never existed before, and and people have been fascinated with this for 100 years. I mean, it's an incredible universe. So I'm going to use a lot of tone and ideas and mythology that he came up with, as well as other like 19th century Gothic horror writers that he was inspired by, like the King in Yellow and a lot of other really interesting, like equally terrifying stories. Because I just find that world to be so fascinating and so open for, cosmic horror. I think is one of the most interesting values, because it puts man in a different place in the universe, and I think that's the magic of it for me, is that you look out at our universe and there's literally infinite number of possibilities of what could be out there.
Yeah.
And we always tend to put ourselves at the center of that universe, and what cosmic horror does is tell you that no, actually you're not, and you are a case of fleas for this planet that could be brushed off at any moment, for as much emphasis as we put on ourselves. So I really find that idea fascinating, and I think it's the most terrifying thing there is that ultimately we are insignificant, and these things that we hold dear to ourselves, and all of this life we built for ourselves, and our jobs and careers and families, all of that means absolutely nothing to the bigger universe. And what could be happening out there is so amazing and terrifying and beautiful and beyond comprehension. So I just find that concept really interesting to play with.
Well, as a subgenre, the cosmic horror, I mean, people try it, you see it every so often in features, enough that it does exist as a subgenre,
Yeah.
but I think it's so hard to do, and then register with Joe moviegoer in terms of, this is the kind of thing I want to use my limited brain cycles to think about. So you have to like make it digestible, understandable, but then you can't dumb it down so much that all of a sudden you can't approach the larger concept, because it is a larger concept. So you've signed on for a very tough gig.
Yeah. And I'm enthusiastic about continuing to give it a shot. It's like it's been that has been my internal passion for the majority of my career, and I've seen so many people not do it effectively that it's terrifying to approach. And so the Relic was the first time that I just said, you know what, I'm just going to try this and see what happens. And I feel like we did a really great job, and I'm really proud of what we made, and there's a million things I do differently next time, and I want to just keep trying to get it right.
If people want to see the Relic at this point in its festival run, is it available on the interwebs?
No, it's not right now. We're keeping it tight just because of to keep our festival runs sheltered. But we do have a lot of festivals coming up. But ultimately, we're going to end at Screamfest in October in LA.
Okay.
And then on the final day of that festival, we're going to release to the public on a platform that I can't talk about yet, but I will be happy to talk about when Screamfest starts.
Do you have a website, Twitter, Instagram, or anything like that?
Yeah, I am at JML Film on all social media, and my website is jmlfilm.com. So Jackson Michael Larry Film FILM.com.
All right. Well, this has been Josh J.M. Logan with The Relic at the Houston Horror Film Festival, and it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you about this film. I wish you nothing but the best, because I think it's a great short. It stands high amongst its peers at this weekend, I would say.
Thank you very much for covering it. I appreciate it. It's nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. I am with Shelby today
Hi.
at the Houston Horror Film Festival, and
It is. Yeah, I think I saw.
and this costume caught my attention, as I hope it's a costume, or your orthodontist
Oh yeah,
is
he
like
did a
from
terrible job.
like Russia or some medieval place. What inspired today's costume?
You know, I always been a big fan of Saw. Just the whole franchise as whole just like caught my attention. And I just really wanted to do something that was like my favorite trap, and one that would be easy to bring to cons.
Do you do a lot of cosplay?
Yeah, I do a lot of cosplay. The other one that I do the most is The Purge. I have a translucent mask, and I wear that as well.
Did you build this yourself?
I got it custom made for me to fit me completely from the back to the top.
Is it real metal?
Yeah, so some of the pieces are actually real metal, like these are, but then everything else is plastic, and then it's painted to look like metal. The pieces that are not
Is
metal.
it 3D printed, the parts?
Yes, some of them are.
So it's looks heavy, but
Yeah. Oh, it's really lightweight. Yeah.
if people want to see more of your work, where could they go?
If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Sour Gummy Bears with a Z at the end. And I kind of put like some of my personal lives, but I'm starting to put more of the cosplays stuff on there as well.
Cool. Well, it's been great to talk to you.
Oh,
I'll let
thank
you get
you.
back to the con.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped any other cosplayers, but this one was above and beyond.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you today.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you too.
All right, we have another filmmaker from the Houston Horror Film Festival. This is Michael Kenneth Fahr, MKF, in his credits. He brought the feature-length film Inheritance to the Film Fest, the first in the Saturday morning screenings of the features. What was the original idea behind Inheritance? What made you want to make this movie?
So, originally, a long time ago, there was a company in Boston called Screen Kings, and they had wanted me to do some type of a short audition thing for them. And they give everyone the same generic, they're roommates, and you're going to do this and this and this. But I had asked them if I could do my own version, and originally that's where the characters of Nick and Steve, the two brothers, came from. And I had decided to go ahead and take that and turn it into a feature, which I had always intended to do. There was like an 8-year span between it, and turned it into a murder mystery, and it's completely has nothing to do with the others. And they, you know, I did some shorts for them and with the characters, and they were like, you can do what you want, and so turned it into a murder mystery horror film.
How did you assemble your team?
So a lot of the people that are in the cast I have worked with before. I've acted with before, because I've done more acting than, this is my second feature, but I usually act. And so like Christopher Sarles, who plays my brother, I had worked with him on a film called Brainjack. And Gail, who plays Maria, I played her son like 2 or 3 times in other independent features.
Really?
Yeah. So Kathy Weinkoop, who plays Aunt Rhonda. My producer had known her. I've known her for a long time, and she's really good. So I said, hey, you want to audition? So I wanted to have the cast around me that were people that I knew I could work with and that would be easy to direct. Since I had to direct and act, I was like, all right, I gotta have the right pieces.
Trust level.
Yeah,
right.
I gotta have the right pieces around me, so it's a little less strenuous on me, since I was in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time.
And this was pre-pandemic or somewhere in the middle, or
the end of 2019, like August, September. We shot for 14 days in Tampa Bay in Florida.
So for the film nerds, what did you shoot on, and how'd you cut it together?
All right, we edited in Adobe Premiere Pro. We shot on it was 4K Pocket Magic, I believe. It's fancy.
I noticed there were a couple of drone shots.
Yes.
Did someone own the drone, or did you get a drone guy?
Yes. No. A friend of mine has a drone, and I was like, hey, this would work for the opening. There actually were supposed to be more drone shots throughout it, but it just didn't work out that way. But it worked for the beginning. So.
Sure, the establishing. You got to do that.
You saw the size of that.
Right. All right. So this next question, I'm going to tiptoe into.
Okay.
This was the only film that I've seen. Now, I haven't seen the whole slate, but this is the only film that I saw that had a LG. I don't know the right terms. The
LGBT.
Let's go with queer representation to the level that yours did. How important was that theme and bringing that community into your film?
For me, I definitely wanted to. I tried to make it an even split of gay and lesbian and straight. With the characters, I kind of wanted to do a mixture because for me, I am gay. So I definitely wanted there to be a variety in the story with the characters, but I didn't want the story to be about them being gay.
Sure.
Where it's the story could flow just like a regular murder mystery slasher horror, and I just mixed it up with the characters. So, but I definitely wanted it to have that representation, to have the variety, and at the same time, I didn't want to make all of the characters gay either, because then that it kind of I didn't want to alienate. I wanted it to be inclusive. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So. It's an area right now in media that is finding its sweet spot, and it ain't even close yet in terms of doing it. I think that's an important conversation, though, in terms of like that sweet spot that I'm talking about, where the stories, like you're saying, aren't driven by sexuality,
right?
But it's not so one-sided either.
Right.
And what you're saying about behind the camera being as important as what's in front of the camera, that can't be overstressed. Right.
I think, recently how everyone, especially like Hollywood stuff, is trying to be very inclusive, and they're trying to have a variety. But I think people forget that the variety still needs to be behind the camera. It still needs to be with the producers and the directors and the writers. And a lot of times we look at stuff, and because we're seeing the actor, you're like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
The variety's there, it's there. But it needs to be in front of the camera and behind the camera as well, I think.
If you have the time to continue working on passion projects, will this continue to be a theme, you think, moving forward?
Yeah, I think it would. I've toyed with if I was gonna write a sequel to the film. Not sure if I will or not, but with other ideas that I have, yeah, it would definitely not necessarily the same way this went, but yeah, it would still have the LGBT feel with the way this was, where it wasn't about necessarily the sexuality, but it was the character as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What influences do you have for your filmmaking?
I really love murder mystery, suspense thriller stuff. Like I like Hitchcock. For directors, I really like James Bond.
Oh yeah, the Saw guy.
Yeah, I like.
Have you seen the Saw girl going around?
Oh yeah, I saw her earlier. Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah.
As far as, and I really like Kevin Williamson.
Scream and Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, and a variety.
And gay.
Yeah, and I like how he handled it. I think he handled it in a way that I would lean towards handling it.
I'm of the age where Dawson was on TV when I was caring about teenage TV shows.
Yeah.
And so his, what was the name of the character? It was played by Kerr Smith, but the idea of a gay kiss on TV, that was headlines.
Oh, yeah.
When that happened.
Yeah.
That wasn't just
wasn't just like, okay, it's here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
a big deal. I don't think it is anymore in that same way, but I remember it. So Kevin Williamson, yeah. So what's next? Do you have anything lined up?
I did just finish filming a movie earlier this month in Kentucky. I was acting, and that's a horror film. It's called Window with a View.
If people want to find you or the movie, where would they look on the socials?
All right, you can pull me up on Instagram. You can either type in Michael Kenneth Fahr, or my Instagram is mkf2411. On Facebook, same thing, just type my name in, Michael Kenneth Fahr. Facebook, I have the Inheritance movie page, and I believe that it's under Inheritance Movie 2021 is what it's listed as.
Okay.
Because there are other movies with that title, so I had to be specific. And on IMDb, you can also look me up or look the movie page up. It's all the info's on there.
We've got another filmmaker, and this time an organizer slash volunteer slash staff member of the Houston Horror Film Festival,
Yes.
Troy Escamilla.
Yes.
Your slate was full.
It was full. It was full. We wanted to accept as many films as possible. We had 193 features and shorts submitted to us, and I think we accepted 93 of them. So 100 got cut.
What are the names of your movies?
My first film, feature film, they're all feature films, 3 feature films. Party Night was the first one that came out in 2017, and then Mrs. Claus came out in 2018, and then my last one, Teacher Shortage, came out last year.
Are these all straight up, sounds like slasher?
They're slasher films. I'm a huge 80s slasher fan, so I kind of recreate that tone in my films, yeah. So.
Like the Jason, Michael Myers?
Yeah. Party Night's a strict, like, mass killer killing high school kids on prom night. Mrs. Claus.
There's no better day.
Right. And then Mrs. Claus is my favorite horror movie of all time, Black Christmas. So
the Bob Clark.
Bob Clark one. And so I always wanted to do a Christmas themed slasher. So Mrs. Claus, although that wasn't the original title, the distributor changed the title. So that was my kind of homage to Christmas themed slashers like Silent Night, Deadly Night, all that stuff. And then my last one is a Teacher Shortage, is a slasher film. A little bit different because instead of like high school students getting killed, it's teachers that are being killed off at a high school.
Are these locally made?
They've all were filmed in Houston, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you are part of the burgeoning Houston film community then?
Yeah, although I don't really put myself out there as much as some of the other Houston filmmakers do, but I can say that I do put out films consistently.
Did you go to school for film?
No. I'm an English major. I'm an English teacher. So
that's your day job when you're not?
Day job, librarian actually. But I was my degree's in English education. I was a high school English teacher for 10 years, and I've been a high school librarian for 9 years now.
And you've created a movie about killing teachers, you say?
Yes.
That's not digging the subtext.
No, let's not do it. But if you watch the film is has a lot of black comedy injected into it because it really is not only is it a slasher film, obviously, but there are kind of underlying statements about the state of education in America in the film. So
that's a fertile ground.
Yes, and I don't know how many teachers that have watched the film have come up to me and been like, "Oh my God, that is 100% accurate." What goes on in like the department meetings and stuff during the film is unfortunately very accurate.
Satire.
Well, it would be if it wasn't. It wasn't really happening. But yeah, satire. There you go.
So let's talk about the fest a little bit.
Yeah.
Whose big idea was this?
It was mine.
Really?
This was originally my idea. I actually, back in 2018, 2018 or 19, I actually started the Houston Horror Film Festival and everything, and it was going to be strictly a film festival where we just screened movies all weekend. There was not going to be a convention side to it at all because I had just kind of got off the festival circuit with my films. Party Night and Mrs. Claus played at several festivals that I got to travel to, and I just love the camaraderie of filmmakers when they attend the festivals and you get to meet up with other filmmakers. And there wasn't really a horror themed film festival in Houston. So I thought about starting. I started it up. It was going to be in Katy, actually, at a Hilton Holiday Inn. Hilton. Yeah. Something came up family-wise. My mother passed away, so I couldn't.
I'm sorry.
I had to cancel all that, but I wanted to, when I was to the point where I wanted to restart it. Me and I'd met Tony Rodriguez, who is my co-festival director. We met at Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2017, and he has always talked about wanting to start a convention. I'm like, dude, I want to start this film festival, and actually I was going to do it. So why don't you come on board and let's do this? So that's how he got on board, and with him on board, he has the one that has taken care of like lining up our celebrity guests, getting the vendors, organizing the whole convention side of it, where I was focused on the film festival side of it.
So this is the first one, the
this
inaugural.
was the first one. Yeah. Well, our first one was scheduled last year. We had to cancel due to COVID. So we did hold the film festival virtually.
Okay.
And the award ceremony virtually.
So this is the first in-person,
first live one. Yeah.
So you've probably been to like Comic Palooza, things like that, the other genre things that are available in our quaint town here, and that didn't scratch the itch, I take it.
No, well, they're not. Comic Palooza is not strictly horror.
No.
So I wanted something strictly horror. I mean, horror fans are among the most passionate, devoted fans out there. As you can see this weekend with all the different cosplay and just the passion surrounding the event, that I thought, I want it to be strictly horror, a horror-themed event. And I don't want sci-fi and all that stuff. That is great, but I just wanted a horror event.
How has turnout been?
Amazing. For a first-year event, I think we sold well over 2,000 tickets. So probably over the course of this weekend, we've probably had 2,300 people through here. The film screenings have been packed, which has pleased me, obviously, and I was really worried because I've been to conventions before, horror conventions that have the film festival aspect to it, and a lot of times the film screenings are dead. Nobody goes in them because A, they're not advertised very well, and B, people want to be out among other people and doing things. That wasn't the case this year. The festivals, the screening rooms were packed the entire weekend.
So I suppose your wheels are turning for.
Well, the wheels are turning for next year. We already know we probably outgrew this venue, so we're going to kind of look at different venues for next year and definitely, learn from any minor mistakes and feedback that we get this year regarding the festival in general and then the film screenings as well.
Well, I've talked to a few of the filmmakers, and this was, even though maybe their different films had been in various virtual fests. Yeah. This was the first time that they'd seen audience reaction, because in a virtual fest, what do you like, or the little clap sign? What are you going to do? That doesn't give them the kind of feedback that artists need.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, because my last film came out, hit the festival circuit right when COVID hit. So all the festivals that I got accepted to went virtual. So
when I saw your slate, because I did a podcast with another podcast in preparation for your show. It's called The Great American Scream. They They talk about horror movies that they love, and it may be cruel, but true. I characterized your slate as movies with terrible timing. They probably came out right when nobody could watch them anymore.
And there seemed to be a theme among some of the short films where you could definitely tell they were made during COVID time, because that was one of the issues that some of the films dealt with, was quarantine, being quarantined. The last short film that closed out the festival everywhere was very much about the virus. So there was a couple films that used COVID as their inspiration.
They did.
Yeah.
I talked to the filmmaker behind Relic, or The Relic. And they were in a unique spot because they're kind of industry people, and they just had cool stuff in their garage that they could use.
Yeah, to make. And it turned out really great.
It did. Yeah, it did. There were some real shining stars in the in the bunch that you look at it and you're like, wow, wow.
Yeah, and you're going to have that. You're going to have a broad spectrum of types of films, quality of films, but each film brought something different to the table and to the festival, and that's what you want to see. We had films from first-time filmmakers, student filmmakers, and then films from very established filmmakers. I mean, Margaret Cho executive produced one of the films and starred in it. So it was just such a wide spectrum of talent and experience. And that's what I love about going to these types of festivals. You see so much different levels of talent and style, and it's really interesting to see.
Well, it's cool when you see so much of it. Is that some of it does run together, but then every so often something pops.
There's one that pops out,
yeah.
That you're like, dang.
Yeah. And that happened here, I thought.
It happened a couple times. Yeah, for sure.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much
on running a good con here.
The staff here was amazing. We loved being here. Anything you needed, they were there. Random things. Hey, do you have a USB cord? They had it. I mean, it was weird. They were great.
Well, then in conclusion, congratulations and good luck on next year.
Thank you.
I know that I've been kind of trolling around your rooms and you've been like, who's the guy in the hat? But I'm just a friendly neighborhood podcaster hoping to promote people's art.
I understand, and I appreciate you coming. And we have an award show in about a half hour.